Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to discuss about bond cleavage and its type, that is homolytic as well as heterolytic bond cleavage. So organic reactions, this is a very important point to understand, that organic reactions involve bond breaking and bond forming phenomena. So organic reactions involve bond breaking as well as bond forming phenomena. Now let us understand about bond cleavage. Now bond cleavage has another name which we also call it as bond fission. We can also call it as bond fission. Okay, so bond or bond breaking. So bond cleavage or bond fusion is the splitting of covalent bonds, or you can say the breaking of covalent bonds. A very simple definition. There are two ways in which a covalent bond can be broken. The first one is homolytic bond cleavage and second is heterolytic bond cleavage. These are very simple points. Now let us understand about a homolytic bond cleavage. So I am considering an example over here, AB, where I'm considering molecule AB. Now there are electrons which are being shared, right? Now if the bond breaks in such a manner that the electrons are equally distributed to the bonding atoms, the electrons are equally distributed to the bonding atoms, then it is known as homolytic bond cleavage. So here A is also getting the electron, B is also getting an electron, and what is finally formed is A, on top of which you have to show a dot that shows that it gets one electron, and you have to remember that electron will be unpaired electron, and B is also getting an electron. Okay. Now what is formed is known as a what is formed is known as free radical. So these are known as free radicals. These are known as free radicals, and they are electrically neutral. So that is a very important point to understand, that they are electrically neutral. Electrically neutral. Okay. Now if we have to define a homolytic bond cleavage, how can you define it? So if you can define it in this way, if the bond breaks or splits, if the bond breaks or splits in such a manner that if the bond breaks in such a manner that electrons are equally distributed to bonding atoms. Electrons are equally distributed to bonding atoms. To bonding atoms. Then it is known as homolytic bond cleavage. So if the bond breaks in such manner that electrons are equally distributed to bonding atom, then it is known as a homolytic cleavage. And what is formed is an electrically neutral species. So as a result, you can write this as a result, electrically neutral species. As a result, electrically electrically neutral species. As a result, electrically neutral species or intermediate is formed. Species is formed. Electrically neutral species is formed. This is very important. Okay, this is very important. Okay, now understanding heterolytic bond cleavage. Now I'm going to consider an example XY. Okay, molecule XY. Now there are two electrons. Now here I am assuming that the electronegativity order is y greater than x. So electronegativity of y is greater than x. This is something that I'm assuming. The electronegativity of y is greater than x. So what happens is that if the bond breaks in such a manner that both of these electrons are transferred to the most electronegative atom, then it is known as heterolytic bond cleavage. So here both these electrons are transferred to Y, and here you're not going to get electrically neutral species, but you're going to get ions. So what are formed? Ions are formed. Ions are formed. Okay, so this is very, very important. So if we have to define this, if I have to define what heterolytic bond cleavage is, I can define it as if the bond breaks, if the bond breaks in such a manner, if the bond breaks in such a manner that both electrons are transferred, both electrons are transferred to the most electronegative, bonded atom, to the most electronegative bonded atom, then it is known as heterolytic bond cleavage. And what you're getting is not an electrically neutral species, you're going to get ions. Okay, you're going to get ions. And the atom which is taking both the electrons will get the negative charge, and the the most electronegative atom will obviously get the negative charge, and the other atom will get the positive charge. Okay, so cation as well as anion is formed. Now let us move ahead and understand certain points which are very, very important. So the point that I have to explain over here is that to break, listen carefully, to break a bond, to break a bond in ions, or heterolytic, for heterolytic cleavage in ions, that is heterolytic cleavage, right? Heterolytic cleavage, this heterolytic cleavage, a polar solvent is required. A polar solvent, a polar solvent is required. This is very, very important. This is very, very important, and we'll understand the reasons for it. So to break a bond into ions, a polar solvent is required. So here I'm going to take a simple example to understand about polar solvent, and the example that I'm taking is water. The example I'm taking is water. Now in water, we know that there is one oxygen atom which is bonded to two hydrogen atoms, right? Right. Oxygen being electronegative, then hydrogen will attract. There will be a small attraction towards of the electrons towards oxygen. Therefore, and that will happen in the two bonds. Therefore, it is going to get two del minus charge, and hydrogen is going to get del positive charge. This is the concept of electronegativity, right? Right. So both hydrogens will get del plus each, and the oxygen is also going to get a del minus. Now, listen carefully. If cation approaches, if the cation approaches, now unlike charges attract each other, so the del minus is on oxygen, so this oxygen will attract this P plus, that is the cation, and the oxygen will stabilize the cation. So here you can say that oxygen stabilizes the cation, stabilizes the cation, that is P plus. Similarly, if an anion approaches, for example, I'll take the example of Q minus. If the anion Q minus approaches, then these H plus will attract this anion, and these anion will be stabilized by the H plus. So H plus will stabilize the anion. H plus will be stabilizing the anion, that is Q minus, right? Right. So here the cation P plus will be stabilized by oxygen because it has a del minus on it. Now Q minus will be stabilized by hydrogens because they have del plus. Now Now here I'm going to explain the point that I've written above with a simple example, and I'm going to take the example of hydrochloric acid. Now we know that hydrochloric acid is HCl. We know that hydrochloric acid is HCl, right? HCl, right? Now in a beaker, listen carefully, in a beaker which has water in it, so a beaker which is filled with water in it, so this is a beaker, and in this beaker water is filled, so this beaker has water in it, so it's completely filled with water. Now if into this hydrochloric acid gets into this, if HCl gets into this, what happens is listen carefully, what happens is that there are millions of water molecules in this. Now the hydrogen of any one water molecule, sorry, the hydrogen of any one water molecule will will attract the chlorine towards itself. The hydrogen of any one water molecule, the hydrogens of any one water molecule, there are millions of water molecules, and these hydrogens will start attracting this chlorine towards itself. Okay, then, and that's not it done, there is an oxygen also. Oxygen is having del minus, and this oxygen will attract the hydrogen towards itself. So ultimately you can find that in the case of H bonded with Cl, the oxygen of water is pulling the H towards itself, and the hydrogen of water is pulling the Cl towards itself. Now, because of this pulling, this bond becomes weak. This bond becomes weak. So this weakens the bond. You can say that this weakens the bond, and finally, what happens is the bond breaks. Finally, what happens is the bond breaks, and what is formed is H plus and Cl minus is formed. H plus and Cl minus is formed. This is very important. H plus and Cl minus is formed. So that I will show in this. So we will get H plus because the bond breaks, and we will get H plus, and we will also get Cl minus, and the H plus will be stabilized by oxygen. H plus is a cation, and as I said before, the cation will be stabilized by the oxygen, and the same case will happen over here. This H plus will be stabilized by oxygen, and the Cl minus will be stabilized by hydrogen. Cl minus will be stabilized by hydrogen. So as soon as HCl molecule gets into the water, this is what happens. So this is how the bond weakens, and what happens finally, it gets the bond breaks electrolytically, and ions are formed, and these ions are stabilized by the polar solvent. That is also a very very important point that should be kept in mind, that polar solvents stabilize ions. Polar solvent, like water, stabilize ions. Example for a polar solvent, you can take water. Now, this is not the case in the case of non-polar solvent. So, if I take a non-polar solvent, for example, if I'm taking a non-polar solvent CCl4, if I take a simple example for non-polar solvent, I can take CCl4. So, non-polar solvent, this is not the case. HCl, you can write this, that HCl will not even behave like an acid in the case of non-polar solvent. So, HCl does not behave like an acid in the case of, like an acid in non-polar solvent. And the best example that you can take for this is CCl4, which is non-polar solvent. Now you can understand that in the case of a polar solvent, there are more chances for heterolytic bond fission to take place. In the case of a non-polar solvent, there are more chances for homolytic bond cleavage to take place. So these are very very important points. Now, if take A, I take a molecule of A bonded with B. If I provide energy to this, if I provide energy to this, I can break the bond. I can break the bond. But that is not practical. Let us look at the reason why that is not practical. Because let's see. So first step, I need to break this AB into A and B. So some amount of energy, let's say the amount of energy is E1 is required. E1 is required. Now I need to get this A converted into its ion form, and let's say the ion form is A plus. So here I am considering the electronegativity order is electronegativity is B greater than A. This is something that I am assuming. Okay. Now the amount of energy needed for this, let's say it is E2. Let's say it is E2. Now I also need some amount of energy to convert this B into its ion form, that is B minus, because electron activity is bigger than A. And let me say that the amount of energy needed is E3. Now I also require some amount of energy to separate these ions. I need some amount of energy to separate these ions, and let me call that E4. Then it gets separated as A plus and B minus. So these many steps have to be followed to break this bond heterolytically. Now let us understand what is E1, E2, E3 and E4. So E1 is known as bond energy. E1 is known as bond energy. E1 is known as bond energy. E2 E2 is known as ionization energy. Is known as the ionization energy. E3 E3 is known as electron affinity, or you can say it's electron gain enthalpy. You can call it the electron affinity, or you can call it the electron gain enthalpy. Electron gain enthalpy. E4 is known as lattice energy. E4 is known as lattice energy. E4 is known as lattice energy. So first I need to provide E1, that is the bond energy, to first break the bond and form A and B. Now I need to convert A into its ion form. For that I need ionization energy. I need to convert B into its ion form, that is E3, and I need E3 amount of energy, that is electron gain enthalpy or electron affinity. Then I need to provide lattice energy so that it gets the ions get separated. Now we can clearly understand that a very high amount of energy is required for this. High amount of energy will be required for this. And that is the reason why we use a solvent, a polar solvent, because this polar solvent will attract the anion towards itself as well cation towards itself. I hope you understood from the example of HCl where we discussed about that. So that is the importance of, that is a role of solvent. So I can break the bond using these energies, but a very high amount of energy is required, and obviously that is not practical. Now, the next and the last point that I have to discuss in this session is about bond energy and bond dissociation energy. So these are very, very important terms which many still don't understand. So what is bond energy? What is bond energy? Let us understand that. So clearly we understood that E1 was bond energy. So let us define bond energy. So bond energy can be defined as the bond energy can be defined as minimum amount of energy to break a bond. The minimum amount of energy to break a bond, and here we are talking about or a type of homolytic way. That is, we do not need to get ions. I clearly showed in that example. AB has to be broken into A and B, and the amount of energy E1 was bond energy. So minimum amount of energy to break a bond is known as bond energy. Now there is another term also which is known as the bond dissociation energy. That is also very very important. So for to understand that, I am taking a simple example, and that is CH4. CH4. Now CH4 can be broken into CH3 and H, right? Now CH3 can also be further broken down into CH2 and H, CH2 again into CH and H, CH can again into C and H. Now imagine the for the first one, CH4 to CH3 and H, the amount of energy required was E1. Okay, and for this it was E2, E3. Just example, or you can, okay, you can call them as um, just normally we can call them as E1, E2, E3, etc. So let this be E1, this be E2, this be E3, and this to be E4. Now, E1 is the bond dissociation energy to break CH4 into CH3 plus H. E2 is the bond dissociation energy for CH3 to be broken down CH2 and H. Similarly, E3 and E4. So when you talk about these four individually, then they are known as the bond dissociation energy. So when you are talking about these four individually, then it is known as the bond dissociation energy. Now, what is bond energy then? Bond energy is actually the average of all this, the average of all this. So if I'm talking about bond energy, if I'm talking about bond energy, then in this situation it is E1 plus E2 plus E3 plus E4, the whole divided by 4. This is what is known as bond energy. This is very very important. This is the difference between bond energy and bond dissociation energy. Now, in the case of diatomic molecules, you can directly say that bond energy is equal to bond dissociation energy. So that is also an important point to keep in mind. That is, in the case of diatomic molecules, you can say bond energy is equal to bond dissociation energy. So in case of diatomic molecule or diatomic molecule, you can say bond energy is equal to bond dissociation energy. Okay, this is also very very important. In case of diatomic, many forget this. Okay, and they believe bond energy and bond dissociation energy are same in all cases. You can take an example over here. You can talk about HCl, you can talk about HF, etc. So in all these cases you can say bond energy and bond dissociation energy are the same, but in case of diatomic molecules only. So that's all for this video. If you liked the video, you please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.